Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cynispection for another exciting episode where we'll be reviewing
something that no one else is reviewing.
Well, not right now, but look, I mean, the movie first is called The Fog. It's directed by John Carpenter. Stars Jamie Lee Curtis and Tom Atkins, both of which were John Carpenter regulars back in the day. But yeah, nobody's talking about this movie anymore. Unfortunately, everybody's talking about, whatever, the next Batman movie or whatever this is. So, but we talk about it here because I want to say, because none of us had seen it, right, John?
Yeah.
Like, no one of us.
That was a fresh movie for both of us.
It was a fresh movie for both, and I wanted to watch it because I've been trying to catch up on my John Carpenter. I realized I haven't seen most of John Carpenter's movies. I'd seen Halloween. I'd seen Big Trouble in Little China, The Thing, Ghost of Mars, which we reviewed here before, Escape from New York. But there's like many I haven't reviewed, and he has a very extensive.
He does have a lot of films. Yeah, he has a lot of films where I don't know. Gabe's back now.
Can you hear me now? Was I frozen or just muted?
No, you just muted yourself.
Oh,
this is another week of fun on Cynispection where we don't know if Gabe's going to mute
technical issues. Yeah, no, I think it should be fine. I was just telling John I paid for this, so yeah. I mean, he has an extensive background. He does not do like it never felt like he repeated himself, even though he did sequels. Which we haven't seen Escape from LA, which is a sequel to.
I've seen Escape from LA once, but it's been probably 5 years or something.
So I believe it's a bit similar to the original. So maybe that's where he repeated himself. But he made this one right after Halloween.
I mean, there's certain elements of this that show this is an interesting movie because it's somewhat of a slasher, but it's not, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's also somewhat of a horror, but it's also like an adventure kind of like.
I don't even. So that's the thing. It is classified as a horror movie, and we can get into this a little bit, but I don't really classify it as a horror movie. It doesn't.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it
doesn't meet the right elements for me to be a horror movie.
Well, I mean, what is a horror movie? Like if you watch, do you ever see the Babadook?
The Babadook. Why does that sound familiar?
It's a recent horror movie. Well, recent, probably 10 years old, but more recent horror movie. And it's sort of about a woman isolated. She has a child, and she's kind of losing her mind. She's kind of bringing the child in with her, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But it's all put between within the context of, I'm sure somebody will correct me about the actual plot of the Babadook because I haven't seen it since it came out. But it's all put in the context of her creating a ghost, a monster, right? That shows up in her house, but it's just her going crazy. So all this to say, sometimes horror has different faces. So this one I would put it in adventure horror kind of vibe. It's not.
Yeah, it's not going to. I don't know. It's not going to scare you. Even my wife doesn't watch horror movies at all, and she could sit and watch 99% of this movie. So. It's very, in my mind, it's very a suspense thriller. You don't actually see the murders. I mean, you sort of do, but never really. The murders in this movie are all done off camera.
Well, kind of like Halloween. Halloween is the same. You don't really see much in the first one. And then the sequels, it becomes a joke. But the first Halloween is not really that violent. I don't think you even see blood at any point.
There's I cannot remember a scene in The Fog where there's any blood. Matter of fact, the one woman who's at the lighthouse, she gets stabbed with the hook.
Yeah, and you don't see
there's no blood or anything like that. Not even on the hook. There's no blood at all. So I can't really remember. I don't seem to remember any blood or anything like that in this movie.
No. And that was his style. He wasn't into the blood and gore, at least not here. We haven't seen every single one of his movies again. I recently watched one that I thought I liked better than this one, even though I really liked this one. I know you will talk about how you feel about it, but I watched a movie of his called Christine,
Mm-hmm.
which is about a car that kills people. Like literally, it's about a car that kills people. So it's like B movie stuff, but it's actually really good, or I found it really good. So he tried different things. Again, he didn't repeat himself. It's based on a Stephen King book, so you can imagine some weird Stephen King stuff. There's
Yeah,
bullies. There's like usual. Um. Anyway, why don't we do? I think we haven't done it in a while, but can we do John explains the plot?
I can try. Yeah,
So spoilers, I guess, because I
yeah.
think
Spoilers ahead
yeah,
on a 40-year-old movie.
yeah.
So
Go for
we're
it.
in this small town in Northern California, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, and in this small town, we get to hear a ghost story about a ship that mystically sank off the coast. And that I don't know how often, I guess it's whenever, this is the 100th year, the fog rolls in and these people, the pirates, are going to basically take back the gold that was stolen from them or something. It's an old wives' tale around, you know, gold and pirates and some almost like Pirates of the Caribbean level thing here.
Almost. I mean, it's not. I wouldn't be surprised if I read an interview from the writers of Paris of the Caribbean. They were like, "Yeah, I was inspired by the fog." Like,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
there are also, I mean, there's a lot of elements from this that you do see in Pirates of the Caribbean, but we can talk about that later. Same thing with like, the hook and everything that shows up in I Know, or I Know What You Did Last
I
Summer.
thought about that too. Yeah, I mean, look, everybody. So recently, I think I sent you this tweet, but some guy on Twitter, some moron on Twitter, like tweeted like screenshots of the Rotten Tomato scores for the most recent Jordan Peele movies. Well, most recent, all three of his movies. And
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Peele's great, but he tweeted like, "Can we just now say that Jordan Peele is the best director of all time because of the Rotten Tomato scores?" And then Jordan Peele himself responded, and he was like, "Shut up and sit down," or something like that. And
Wow.
he was like, "I will not let you degrade John Carpenter like that," or something like he was like Jordan Peele is great. I love Nope. I liked Get Out a lot. Us was okay. But like the fact that Jordan Peele, like and many horror people like just acknowledge how great Carpenter was. I feel like it tells you all you need to know about his style, about how influential he was.
I mean, in an era where movies did start to get pretty violent, he does kind of avoid it in a pretty good way.
Yeah, I mean, because if you watch and I'm sorry I cut you off, but like if you watch like A Nightmare on Elm Street,
yeah,
it's its own thing. But if you watch because the three big horror franchises are A Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, and
and
Halloween.
Halloween.
And Halloween is pretty much Friday the 13th is pretty much a Halloween ripoff with more sex and more violence.
Yes.
Like it's not, it doesn't have anything really particularly special about it. Like
It's actually so crazy that you can probably like swap the movies around and like they are interchangeable in my head. Like sometimes I'll mess up thinking about one with the other.
Right. I mean, the first Halloween's great. The first Friday the 13th is not great. Like people always say, "Oh, the first one was good." It's like, no, it wasn't. Like it's not a good film. So anyway, all this to say, um, he did like this is a different kind of horror. It's not similar to Halloween, but at the same time, you can see his style.
Yeah. It's in my mind, it's a more of a thriller. Like this is something that you could watch with a kid. The kid probably wouldn't be too terrified, and it's not like horrifically gory or anything like that.
No, yeah, no. I mean, and that's good. I mean, look, if a kid is going to learn about scary movies with The Fog as opposed to, um, you know,
Some
Goosebumps.
slasher, yeah.
No, not even like because there's scary movie for kids like Goosebumps. I don't know if you saw Goosebumps, but that was like a scary movie for kids.
Yeah.
Like, they're, I'd rather him watch this, because it's really well done. I really enjoyed it, but you didn't that much. So tell me why.
I don't know. It was like, I won't say it's a bad film, right? Because there are good elements to the film. It's not something that's expected. It's not a story that you've heard a million times. It's not a rehashing or a sequel, right?
Which we'll
Actually,
talk about
I
the
saw
rehash.
like
We'll talk
Ryan,
about the rehash in a minute, but yeah.
Yeah. I saw Ryan's comment that this is something that nobody else is reviewing on Twitter earlier, which made me kind of chuckle because like nobody even talks about these types of movies.
Well, some people do, not in the corner that probably Ryan watches, you know, but like, you know, not say anything about Ryan, like, you know, but you know, view people like, I mean, you and me probably before the show, we were also 99% into like reviewing the current thing, you know, and not reviewing a 40-year-old movie with, you know,
So the things I didn't like were, I was expecting, I don't know, a little bit more out of it, I guess, but it's a 1980s movie. I don't know why I was expecting more out of it. Like,
well, it doesn't feel like, I want to talk about that with you because we love the 80s, and just last week we reviewed a movie that came out in 1990, Days of Thunder, that felt like an 80s movie. Yes. And it feels like a 70s movie.
Yes, it does.
It didn't feel like 80s horror. 80s horror was a bit, 80s horror was a bit campier, I feel, you know, like well, you watch,
I think that's what I was expecting. So I guess it's not a you know, a knock on this. It was just, that's what I was expecting. Like I was expecting like 80s campy level horror about the fog. And this actually had a much more serious note to it, to the point where I think they remade it not that long ago, right?
Well, we'll talk about it. I want to leave that to the end because I did see the remake years ago. God. I did watch it, so I want to talk about it at the end. But yes, yeah. I mean, it's yeah. If you were expecting that, yeah, because I mean, I guess Nightmare on Elm Street is 80s horror.
Yeah.
So even though it's still great horror, it's a bit campier, a bit different than what this was. Like 70s horror is more like moody and, you know.
This like was definitely much more about what you didn't see than what you saw. But I guess it's what you kind of had to do, right? Like they didn't have the special effects or the budgets that we have now in movies. So you kind of had to,
but also helps. It helps because the cinematography I found to be awesome. Like every time you see the pirates like covered in fog, they look really, really good. And
I'm not going to knock that at all. Like the way that he shot the film, it does feel jumpy, but I think that's just like we were talking before. That's more his style than anything, right?
Yeah, that's the thing about. I mean, I'm going to mention the remake for a minute, but like the remake kind of like adds all this mythology and more attacks by the dead pirates, and it adds like there's this like element of one of the main characters being connected with. You know, and it's like it has like 47 layers of complication. Here, it's just like here's a group of characters. You know, like one of them is a hitchhiker who's hiding something. You never find out what that is. She's just like, you know.
No, that's just like an element of the story that goes nowhere.
It goes nowhere. She's like, yeah, you know, it's my first time hitchhiking, except for last week or something like that. It's like,
and then you find out she's hitchhiked like 15 times or something.
Yes,
she says after that. She's like, I just started last week, but this is my 15th ride or something like that.
Yes. And you're like, okay, what's up with this lady? And then never know. Like you never know.
Like 5 minutes later, she's sleeping with the guy that gave her the ride.
And I find that to be a bit of like the John Carpenter cynicism, where like, yeah, I mean they had sex. What else do you want? You know, you want two characters to have a connection. You got a horny guy, you got a horny lady. They just decided to have sex. You know, it doesn't.
But then they save the day.
I guess the priest saved. I mean, spoiler alert, but the priest is the one that saved the day.
No, they saved the kid.
Oh, true. Yes. Okay. Yeah. That scene, by the way, is identical in the remake, pretty much, which is kind of funny because not everything is. Yeah, I mean, he's not. I mean, if you look at it, if you watch Halloween, like Halloween is like, there's nothing really to Laurie Strode or Dr. Samuel Loomis. Like they're just like people that are in this situation, but you don't get to learn a lot about them. You know, like, you know what I mean? Like it's just like there.
I mean, they didn't before, probably I would say like, and we've kind of like stuck to this on the timeline, but around like 2007, 2008, if you made a movie before that, you got away with like zero like plot depth, right? Like before that time, you didn't need 90 layers of complication. You didn't need anything else. Like you could just make a movie and It didn't need to be a franchise. It didn't need to have a universe. It didn't need to be any of those things.
Yeah, you didn't need to over-explain anything.
Yeah, and now it's the exact opposite, right? Like
now it's like
everything has
layers.
to have these super deep plots, and they want to make everything, a trilogy or a whatever, a saga, or
and also you want to like I feel like why? Okay, I get why the pirates died. I get why they're trying to get revenge, which you went over and John explains the plot. But do I need to know why they became ghosts or why they come in through the fog?
and that's how these things work, right? They're just ghosts.
They're just ghosts. They like the fog comes in. Why is the fog shining? And I feel like now they would be like, oh, the fog shines because ghosts. Like they would explain like 47 minutes of like why.
It would be something about like it shows the something or another, and we'd have a scientist come on that's like measuring the fog, and then they would explain some like paranormal backstory to why it glows and why does it flash before it kills somebody. I mean, like that's exactly what they would do.
I mean, the question is, do you need to know those things to understand what
you don't
about to be engaged by? I was very engaged. There's a scene that kind of like I was surprised how like into it I was when I think her name's Stevie. Stevie Wayne. She's like the lady in the lighthouse, and she's like trying to save her son, but she doesn't know if the son is alive. And then she's like hell of a performance by the actor, but she's like I hope you understand, like son, like to her son, I can't go to you because I need to tell people about this. I need to tell them this is happening, and the only way I can do it is through the radio because nothing else is working. Right? She has a battery powered thing.
That she turns on, because the fog, for whatever reason, the fog. This is another thing that they would have to explain. It destroys electrical equipment
and telephone.
Yeah.
So the only thing that works is the radio. Like even radio works in like earthquakes and stuff like that. They always tell you to keep a radio because that's the way
Yeah.
Like it doesn't, it's not as easy to kill as other things. So anyway, I like that scene very much. I thought her performance was very good. It's just the level of complication is not required, and I feel like that's the lesson for today's writers. Like I feel, well, I don't know, well maybe not because most people are not like you and me. You and me can just go with it when we have to.
I mean, I also don't think like we're the guys sitting there begging for a million rehashes of the same thing, right? Like we're constantly trying to figure out movies that don't have the whole universal build. And don't get us wrong, like I think both of us watch those movies, but
I mean, we enjoy them. We like it. Like why it is,
but it's also it gets boring reviewing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah,
like every superhero movie, there's going to be good ones, there's going to be bad ones, but generally there's someone in spandex overcoming a situation, right? Like that's a very dumbed down version, but
it's a trope.
Yeah. Versus this, or other movies that we've reviewed in the past, or if when you talk about like Westworld, certain things that we are trying to stay away from. This movie does check all those boxes. So that was what I was going to say, is it does check a lot of those boxes, and the ending actually caught me off guard because I should have saw it coming because of Halloween. But when I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, like I can zone out now and like text you or like talk or whatever. And then like, because they've solved the mission, the fog is gone, they've got their gold, and then the priest is there, Father Malone or whatever, and he gets like killed by the pirate in the very last scene. Spoilers. But that's very like a Halloween-esque, like it never is over. And I feel like you see that stolen by like Nolan a lot of times. Nolan never really gives his films an end. He just gives you like a continuation to leave the theater with. So you see that.
Just so your brain fills out the details. Like, what is this? Because if it ends, then I guess Marvel also doesn't really end, but because they want to tell you the next movie. People are like Nolan or John Carpenter. Because
Nolan only makes one movie at a time. Usually, Batman being the exception. Every other movie he does is like a complete one-off that he's never going to revisit. Yeah,
I mean, you've seen The Thing, right?
Yes.
The movie The Thing. Yeah, so the Thing also ends in an ambiguous ending. You're like, are any of them an alien? Are they both going to die? you know, and it just like ends, and you don't know what, you know, like you don't know.
You know, when I was younger, I hated that, and now that I'm
Really?
older, I appreciate it.
I
Yeah,
love that ending. I think it's just like what are we gonna do now? It's like, well,
yeah,
just sit here for a while. Are they gonna kill each other? Are they just gonna die frozen? Because the alien doesn't die frozen, so they want to make sure the alien's dead. They gotta kill each other. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
it's or burn each other to death. So, but are they gonna do it, or maybe alien took over the Earth? Like it doesn't. You
Yeah,
don't
you
need
never
to
know.
know. And I like that simplicity too. Like I enjoy the simplicity because I don't know if you've heard, like, you know, there's people that talk about like how Raiders of the Lost Ark, um, like Indiana Jones is completely irrelevant to the movie. Have you heard that before?
No, but I can kind of understand it.
Well, what they say is that like Indiana Jones is like you can take him out of the movie and the same events would have happened identically.
Yeah, because at the end of the movie, they would have opened the ark and they would have all died.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, everything he does, he steals the Ark for a bit.
I
He
mean,
like
he's a
just
plot device to get you to see where the ark is going, but that's it.
well, but what people don't mention, you know, and I feel like the other day I read it from a writer on Twitter, a movie writer called Zach Stent, who he's written several movies, including the first Thor and X-Men First Class and other things. He was like, it just people don't understand, like the plot is not what's important for the end of the movie. The end of the movie is Indiana Jones, like he's set up as a guy who's like, I don't believe in the magic, I don't respect it. Like I'm just a guy who's like, I only believe in real world things. And then by the end, he realizes like I'm way out of my league.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I
it's
should
your
not even
connection
see
to the
this.
characters. Yeah.
Yes, and but it's very subtle. It's not like a movie right now. You'd have a moment of Indiana Jones saying, "I understand. I cannot do that," you know. And he's just like he's looking at it and he's like, you know what? Close your eyes because we're not meant to see this magic. Like
Yeah.
as humans, we're not meant to be here. And that's his growth. That's his arc to understand the magic. You know. I feel like those kinds of like character turns are like were used more in the 80s or 70s or whatever, and even 90s. Just not right now, I guess, because right now it's just like where they have
Yeah,
to put
because
in
now
your
they
face.
beat you over the head with everything.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
So and the same here, you know, like the you know the priest. It's kind of like because the priest is set up like a bit of a douche at the beginning when
yeah, I
the
mean,
guy's like, "Should I come back to work tomorrow?" He's like, "Yeah, 4 a.m." And he's like, "Anything else? Yeah, am I gonna get paid?" And he's like,
and then
"Actually,
there's like
come
the
at 6."
random, the stone that falls, and like then he finds the book and all of these things, which kind of
Well,
lead
he
us.
would have fallen on his head if he hadn't gotten up from that
Yeah,
chair.
he would have died.
Yeah. So
Which is
the
kind of
priest
like
learns
their. I think
humility.
that's them escaping, honestly. So like that's like my kind of theory or whatever. It's like because they needed to kill the
Who's them?
priest right away. That was they needed the priest to die and then the gold, and then the movie would have been over, right? That's what they needed. Because the priest was the grandson or great grandchild of the
The
guy
sixth
who robbed the
victim.
pirates.
The sixth victim.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the priest grows, becomes the victim, saves everybody in some way or the other. So, anyway, I liked it very much. It was a short movie too. Like it's an
It's
hour
another
and
thing I was going to
29
mention.
minutes.
You know, 90-minute
Yeah.
movies are rare these days.
And you get enough. You know, you get
Yeah.
enough. But anyway, let's talk about the remake because I did watch it. I watched it when it came out. I didn't watch it in theaters. I missed it in theaters. It was in theaters for like a week because nobody watched that fucking thing. But it stars Tom Welling, who played Clark Kent / Superman in Smallville, and Maggie Grace, who you might remember from she was in Lost. She was Shannon in Lost, the blonde lady who was kind of
I know who she is.
mean. Yep. So they were like at the top of their game and like TV stuff, and then they were both put in this thing. And then this actress called Selma Blair, because she was in several things also in the early 2000s. I don't know if she's still.
Yeah, I know who she is too. I pulled up the IMDb to like go through. I know exactly.
Yeah,
who
she's been in several things.
Cruel Intentions, Hellboy.
That's right, Hellboy. That's her big one, I think.
Mm-hmm. That's her big one is Hellboy. Yeah.
Right. So I watch. It's like it's increasingly CGI. It's got like this like excessively like early 2000s horror. And I know this show we like the early 2000s, so I don't want to be too mean to the early 2000s, but it's very very not good. It's not a good movie.
I mean, I'm looking at the cast and like it's not very well built. So
I mean, it's all so it's shot in Canada. So I assume that's why Tom Welling was in it because he lived in Vancouver because that's where they shoot all these CW shows. Maggie Grace shoots in Hawaii. It's not too far from Vancouver, so probably I don't know. So it just got like people that were like around. Probably a lot of like Canadian actors, I would guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like it wasn't good at all. It was really really bad. It sort of follows the formula, but like Elizabeth, who's Jamie Lee Curtis in this one, is played by Maggie Grace in that one, and she's like a reincarnation of the ship captain's dead wife or something, and she becomes a ghost in the end. It's like really really stupid.
Wow, that
yeah.
How do you ruin? I mean, this is a pretty simple movie. Pirates of the Caribbean did it really well when they remade it in the early 2000s. This is basically Pirates of the Caribbean is basically this ripped out. Honestly,
it's
like a rip off of this movie.
I believe actually in the first Pirates of the Caribbean, when the pirates get there, the pirate ship is
the fog rolls in. Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
they come in with the fog. Their ship is on the fog.
And their look, like the skull.
Yeah, the moonlight shows their skulls.
He looks very similar to the way guys look here.
Yeah, so because they're all like with the stuff. I mean, guaranteed, directly ripped off. So I mean,
inspired by.
The entire plot is like the same.
Yeah, but it's a. I mean,
it's a period piece. I'm sorry.
But they're inspired. Like things inspire other things. I'm not against it. I'm against it when it's like shitty. But anyway, any final thoughts, John? So we clock it in before the half hour.
No, I mean, if you haven't seen it,
would you recommend it?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it. It's not like, so I have various rankings, and it's not like down here. It's not Veronica. It's way above Veronica.
I mean, but most things are. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put it where. I don't think I would put it where Halloween is for me.
Okay.
But I would.
How about Escape from New York?
I would put it above Escape from New York. So it's in a weird place. I like Escape from New York.
Yeah, Escape from New York was great. I mean, out of the John Carpenter movies that I've seen, it's not my favorite. But it's up there. I mean, I get why he's such a revered filmmaker now. Besides Halloween, because everybody thinks Halloween these days because it's the franchise or whatever the fuck. Yeah. Like 27 movies. But like right now, I'm feeling happy to be able to see more of his stuff. So I'm looking forward. I want to go through his whole filmography. He went to different stages of
so many. I mean, Ghost of Mars is pretty bad. So
well, that's his next to last. And then after that, he made a movie with Amber Heard. It's kind of funny. Called The Ward. Yeah.
Don't worry, though. Amber Heard's not the most hated woman on the internet this week.
I mean, somebody different is the most hated person on the internet every week. All right. Well, like and subscribe. Enjoy life. Enjoy scary movies. October's coming up, I guess, so you can watch this one. It's not particularly scary, but if you're into like adventure horror, I think this is a good way to spend your time.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next week for more Cynispection. Goodbye, John.
Bye.